Excellent. Welcome, everyone, to the Township of Whitewater Region's regular council meeting for May 17th. We'll call to order at 4:46 p.m. And our first item on our agenda is our national anthem. So if you could please rise and turn to the flag. Thank you. Grab a seat, please. Next item is the land acknowledgement. So as we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. And excellent. Just before we go on to the next item on the agenda, just to note that Councillor Olmstead isn't present yet, but has indicated he will be arriving shortly. So we'll see him enter the meeting and take note of it at that time. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. So the recommendation before us is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the May 17th, 2023 agenda presented before us. Can I get a mover and a seconder? So moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Moore. Is there any additions or deletions, changes to the agenda from members of council? None seen. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next item is the adoption of minutes. First is our regular minutes from May 3rd. The recommendation that the Council of Township Whitewater Region approve the regular minutes of May 3rd, 2023. A mover and a seconder. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Moore. Is there any edits or omissions that anybody's noted in those minutes? None seen. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Next is April 19th closed session minutes. The recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the closed session minutes of April 19th, 2023, understanding that they remain confidential. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Bell, Councillor Trim. We can't comment on that at this point in time. Is there any discussion that will be need to take into close with respect to these minutes? Any indication from anyone else? Good. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. The next, I'll just note the County Council update from April 2023 is attached as well for your information, and I'll speak to some of the major items in the Mayor's address later on tonight. Next item is disclosure of interest, and looking to the members of council, is any disclosures for this evening's agenda? That's good. None seen. So we'll carry on. Next, we get to our public meeting and our presentations. And tonight we have two delegations and a public meeting. We'll start with our delegations, and first up is our Muskrat Watershed Council. So Karen and Dave, I'll get you to come to the mic, turn the mic on, and introduce yourselves for members of council and anybody else that might be watching.
Okay, it's green, so I'm assuming it's on. All right, I want to say welcome to the new councillors, and what we're here tonight for is to let you learn about us, and those that are returning, welcome back. It's nice how they let you jump in there as new councillors right when they're doing budgets and things. No time to dip toes in at all. All right, who we are is we are a totally volunteer-led organization worried about the water quality in our watershed. And we have started in 2014. And basically the watershed is made up of two parts. There is 1,200 square acres, and of the smaller part that most of us are familiar with. But we are working throughout the entire watershed to better the quality. And we do have concerns, and do you want to cover the concerns, Dave?
Sure. We totally rehearsed this, as you guys can see. I'm Dave. So the concerns, it's obviously people that live in the area know about the problems with Muskrat Lake. Muskrat Lake is becoming a eutrophic lake, which means that it has potential for blue-green algae to develop, and we've been seeing that in the past few years developing into the lake. So a group was formed, and this is not now just Muskrat Lake. Inside our watershed, we have two lakes now affected by these algae blooms, which is Round Lake, not Lake Dory and Muskrat Lake, sorry. So like Karen said, our watershed kind of spans over a quite big area, and all these streams and creeks are all kind of connected through the farming communities and then ends up inside Muskrat Lake. Muskrat Lake has a big problem where it's a very deep lake. It kind of acts as a bathtub. Things flow in really slow, things flow out really slow, allowing for nutrient growth and problems with the lake. The province recognized that the lake had problems and some negative impacts, so they provide some funding, and we set up this water monitoring network with them, and then research was done by Dr. Rebecca Dalton from Carleton University a few years back, and identified some things that we can do to address the challenges, and that's what the watershed has been working towards in the past few years. So the council's comprised of all these people. In the middle is Karen, the bigger picture there. And then we have our vice, which is Rennie, Debbie, our treasurer, and our director at large.
Andy Laird.
No, beside Debbie.
I don't have my glasses on, Jeff.
Jeff Reeves. Sorry, Jeff, if you're listening. And at the bottoms are the directors. So then there's Andy Laird and myself, Klaus, which is now used to represent Laurentian Valley, but still represents Laurentian Valley, but now it's being retired public works person from there. He's decided to keep on with the watershed and keep supporting us. And then there's our secretary, Barb, and then our new and fresh Amanda, our media person. Most of you probably haven't met yet, but I'm sure you're going to meet her. She's a new resident on the lake, has a cottage there, and her and her husband are very well involved and very well engaged. We're all volunteers. None of us are paid to do this. And just to say that that's all the directors that's presently on council, but we have as many empty spots left than filled spots. It's hard to get people engaged inside the watershed nowadays. I think we can maybe blame COVID a bit, or maybe blame things that kind of went on the past few years, or having membership come in and new faces come in has been difficult, but at least, some people are starting to come in and getting involved. So in 2014, we became registered nonprofit organization. Like I mentioned, also at the same time, the Water Quality Network started, and that Water Quality Network is around the whole watershed, 27 areas that were being monitored by the Ministry of Environment, provided funding to test the water. So then he gave us kind of a baseline information of what's going on around. And in 2014, 2015, we tried a biocord. It's kind of a flotation island that we put in near the Cobden Marsh to absorb nutrients, to see if something works. And then we moved on to have our first science night, 2015. Controlled tile drainage was introduced to Renfrew County through the help of the college and our farming community. So Rennie and Karen had a big part in that in 2016, 2017. 2017, the Love Your Lake program took place on Muskrat Lake, where they drove around every single property and kind of talked about shoreline naturalization for every single property. And this year, or last year, last summer they did Lake Dory, the same thing. The microsis sampling, so any residents were invited to report to us any sighting of blue-green algae, and we went to go test to see if there's any microsis, which is the bacteria that can actually lead to, you know, very adverse effect. And we did that sampling program in 2018 with the help of the college. 2018 to 2020 was a Trillium grant. We saw 45,000 trees. It's kind of hard to believe that we're still able to do, especially COVID hit that year, 2020, and we still managed to get these plants in, and then some thankful volunteer on the council came up and helped out, and also we had to look at hiring planters because of all the restrictions at the time. We really wanted to achieve our goal and still have the 45,000 trees in, and we managed to get it in. Over 15 kilometers of shoreline through Farmers Field was restored through that program. I guess I skipped something because I just noticed that I didn't talk about shoreline naturalization. So a bunch of properties around the watershed, especially Muskrat Lake, also had shoreline naturalization where they saw 50 trees by property was also planted through the years leading up to this big project. In 2019, the Interlake Meeting Association and Soil Workshop, we want to copy what OMAFRA did with soil sampling, provide funding for people to test their soil to reduce the amount of nutrients they put inside their farms. We had, we aimed to have 5 farms, and we ended up having how many farms? I think 15.
The first time, 15.
Yeah,
second
15,
time,
and we were hoping for 5, and we end up getting a lot more than what. And then, you know, farmers want to get it done, so we decided to keep doing it. This year, Soil and Crop took on that project, and last year, so we're not reintroducing that project again, but that was done through a partnership with,
Great Lakes
I'm
Local
so
Action
bad.
Fund.
Great Lakes Action Fund and, what's the name of that company in Mixburg? M&R Feeds. In 2021, although COVID did shut down almost every single one of our projects, we still did the loon survey where, again, we have very active lake association that helped us out. So Mink Lake, Lake Association, the Olmstead-Jeffrey Lake Association, and the Lake Dory Lake Association participated in the loon survey and observed different families of loons on the lake and kept records of them. And on Muskrat Lake, myself and Barb, which is on the other side of the lake, we monitor our loon families on this lake also. And then last year, we saw another big project. It was a Great Lake Action Fund project, where again, we did some tree planting on 3 different properties, cattle fencing, watering, and did I forget something?
Well, there was 5,000 plants put in, 2 alternative waterers to keep cattle and livestock out that had been previously in the water. And there was, don't quote me on this, I want to say 1,800 meters of fencing put along the waterway to keep them out.
If we turn to the next slide, you'll see the aerator system that was put in at the beach. Oh. The water aerator system is the first photo, kind of tell you guys what we did in the past few years. We did a marsh cleanup at Cobden Marsh last year, and then tree planting, the sampling done with the college. That was one of the Algonquin College students that worked with us for one summer. The controlled tile drainage at the bottom, and then the Love Your Lake programs with 2 Algonquin College students again. Next one, you want to talk about what's in progress?
Sure. In progress, we just finished doing 4,000 shrubs and trees planted along agricultural land. And this is a new fund that Watersheds Canada is our partner, along with another foundation, which we haven't been given the permission to use their name yet. They are also behind the 21 acres that is to be mechanically planted in this month, and it should be 12,000 plus trees. There is one alternative watering system, says to be put in, but as of yesterday, it is in and keeping cattle out of Pump Lake. The Cobden Beach, we're changing the aerators and upgrading them so that they work better, and then we will reuse the ones that we take out in another project. And we were also partnering with the town on the Cobden Marsh study.
Of course, a lot of our funding comes through donations, and I just want to recognize everyone that's gave us donations in the past. They can see Whitewater Region has been very generous in the past. We'd like to thank you for all your support. And it's not just like monetary support, providing, you know, a rep to our council is very helpful, and also the township staff has been extremely helpful for any project, any questions. We can often, I think Ivan's phone number is on speed dial on my phone at one time. Now Alex is going to become on speed dial soon. So we're very grateful for the support we received from council. And again, it's not that we're asking for financial contribution. We're asking still for your support and keep having Councillor Olmstead join us, or weekly, or not weekly, but monthly meetings. And then, yeah, that's kind of our ask right now, unless Karen has more stuff to ask for.
Just the one ask that you'd help us connect with the other townships in order to get more support. We are lacking in support from the other townships. Are there any questions?
Thanks so much for that presentation. That's excellent. I'm just going to, before I open up to council, can I get back to the slide that shows the watershed? Yep. So just to be clear, those, the Laurentian Valley, North Algona, Wilberforce, and Amherst-Bromley are the three that you're asking for us to help encourage them to participate in the council in the same manner we do with a rep.
Yes, because Amherst-Bromley, a lot of the work that we do is along Snake River, and it is in their township. But we just haven't had much success in getting support.
Perfect. I know we've done some preliminary meetings with Laurentian Valley and Amherst-Bromley. I haven't touched base with North Algoma Wilberforce, but I think they're willing to hear us out. And what I'd like to do is, if we can schedule it, we'll do a delegation. Either a member of council or myself will participate and add some encouragement for them to also participate. And I think it's important if they know we're not looking for money, we're looking for participation.
Yes, because
Is
in
that
any
fair?
grant support from people is a large part of why they swing it your way. They want to see partners.
Yeah, and show that the community as a whole is all on board. So good. No, I think we can work with you on that. No problem at all. Good. And Councillor Olmstead's not here right now, not yet, but I know he's in support. We've chatted before about it. So good. With that, I will open it up to council for questions or comments. Councillor Moore, you had yeah.
Well, you took my thunder. I was going to ask which municipalities, but anyway, thanks for coming this evening and bringing us an update of what's been going on. And it's nice that you're getting all the plants in the ground and continuing on and not going backwards. So it's nice to see you going forward. But I agree, you do need participation from all our members, surrounding members, and hopefully the mayor can get on it and get it done. Thanks.
Hope so. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. Just a comment. I do just want to say thank you very much, Karen, and to yourself for everything that you are doing, and to all of your volunteers. You're making this happen, and it's very exciting, and you're doing very good work, and we appreciate it. So anything, again, we can do, we're more than willing to help you out. So thanks again, and if you would pass that on to all of your volunteers. Many thanks.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I just, Kathy just reminded me, sorry, Deputy Mayor just reminded me of something. That another big ask, maybe we should have asked and we didn't, is also to help drive volunteers to join the council, and people are interested. You know, when you go out and talk to people and they hear their concern about the lake, invite them to come and join us and come. They don't need to come and be a volunteer, but at least come and listen to us and come join our meetings and hear what's going on around the lake. I think, you know, there's often questions being asked, and just coming out and coming to see us can often get those questions answered. Sorry.
No, that's the exchange we're looking for. And I know the Deputy Mayor is happy. I just want to make sure we have them on our website. We include their minutes as part of, in circulation with our minutes. Social media, if you have social media, you can link your media person up with our media person. We'll make sure that all of your messages are shared and as open to as many members of Whitewater Region as possible. Good. Any other questions or comments from other members of council? No. Just want to close with thank you so much for everything that you do, taking your time out tonight. Again, you're not being paid to come here. We appreciate you sharing your message, and we look forward to seeing if we can get the other municipalities on board and make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So next on our agenda is a delegation by Mr. McLaren. So if you can come to the mic, please, and just make sure it's green. And the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for having us. I'm here on behalf of Sue and I, just Keith here right now. Sue and I own 3 lots, number 27, 28, 29 on Bonnechere Street, which are original lots of the village of Cobden. We are looking for info, plans, and timeline for sewer line for the street, as per info and questions in the letter which you have all seen and was sent to Mr. Ivan Burton on April 13th. We know several years ago that the water line was installed on the street, but sewer line was not done at that particular time. It is our understanding that there is plans to refurbish the Bonnechere Street and do sewer line at that time. We are interested having and have had inquiries that are interested in developing these lots. The options being considered are commercial business outlet and 2 residential choices of rental units or 3 individual homes on each lot. We are wondering if there is a planned timeline for the street work. If it is in the near future, then we would be willing to wait to start the development depending on when that would happen. If not, could other options be available, like an upgrade to holding tank and line for the beach washrooms that's presently there, or separate holding tank and pumping line, or septic systems on the property. In conclusion, we are looking for the time frame of the sewer line installed or other options the municipality will consider so we can move forward with the development of these 3 lots. So I just want to thank you very much for having us come and to listen to us summarize summary of the letter that we submitted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. McLaren. What I'll do is I'll just open up, see if there's any questions or comments from the members of council. Any? Yes, Councillor Trim.
Well, comment is that we, as a council, we're certainly interested in development. There's no question about that. And the province also has made that one of their top priorities. I'm just wondering, and maybe staff could help us out here, is there an issue with putting in a sewer line in this area? Do we have to deal with the Canadian Shield, or is there not going to be any problem with the rehabilitation of the road to put in a sewer line? So that's my question, Mr. Mayor.
Good. Staff, do you want to, if you're able to take a response at this point? Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so on Bonnechere Street itself, it does not currently doesn't have a wastewater line, sanitary line. Back in 1995, there was drawing prepared to propose a line on Bonnechere Street and included a sanitary pump station, because to bring it into the wastewater treatment plant, because it is below the street.
So the big challenge would be the actual cost to install it, and then a pumping station.
Yeah, so I'd say based on a drawing from 1995, the engineers at the time didn't identify any constraints to any bedrock or anything like that. But certainly if we're considering moving forward with a project of this nature, we'd do some additional geotechnical work to examine that, for sure.
Perfect, thank you, staff. Any supplemental, or you're fine?
If it were to prove too costly to maintain and to operate a pumping station, are there other options that we would consider to approve in order to ensure the development of these lots?
Do we want to get you? Okay, CA, go.
Yeah, well, certainly. I would just say that in our villages, whether it be Beachburg or Cobden, where there are municipal services, there's a hierarchy of servicing. So certainly we want to, encourage as much as possible servicing by municipal services, municipal water and wastewater. In the case where they're not available and or are not feasible to support certain lots, we could examine alternatives, i.e. a septic system and or an individual system for those properties, for example. But I think the septic system would be an alternative in this case if it's shown that it's not feasible for the developer to install the wastewater network necessary. So pump station, as Lane has noted, and the sanitary line.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions from staff? Councillor Moore.
Could we propose at this time that staff get back to us with a proposal of some sort? Given the current information, they just said 1995, et cetera. Could that be updated in a timely fashion and get us some costing as to what that would cost and what the alternatives are for perhaps the next second meeting of May? Well, what are we now? We're in May, sorry, so in June, sorry. So if that be possible?
So let me just clarify, you're looking for staff to take a look at some of the different, like the CEO mentioned, the different options that are available for development of that property?
Yes.
Okay, so staff, is that something that's feasible?
I would say that there will be cost to be incurred to analyze the anticipated or estimated cost to do a project of this nature. I would say the budget for this year has been approved. We've identified what infrastructure projects we're doing. If council so wishes to do so, we could add this project in the 2024 budget deliberations, but I don't think at this time there's allocations to support and to develop an estimation of the cost of this nature of project. So we'd have to give you a good idea of the cost to put the sanitary sewer in this road and the pump station. We'd have to hire a professional to do that estimate, and it would cost a certain amount of money. So I would suggest that we hold off. And if it's something that that council wants to consider as part of the future budget, then we could look at it in that case. Certainly, if the developer is seeking to assess feasibility, then they could certainly hire an engineer to find out those costs, right? So as it stands and as it has in the past, is traditionally developers pay for servicing, right? So we have a plan of subdivision, the developer's putting in the sanitary lines, putting in the water lines, putting in the stormwater ponds. They're upfronting all that cost, and then we assume those services. So certainly this road is not likely in the queue in the short term to be redone, I would say. So certainly we're not examining this road for rehabilitation in the near future. So anything that we would do here to estimate the costing of this sanitary project would be above and beyond something that we would normally do for a development proposal. Does that kind of answer the question to some degree? If council so wishes to choose for us to activate a consulting firm to analyze the costing, we could do so, but there are costs associated with that.
Perfect, thank you, staff. We'll keep going with questions and we'll come back at the end. So Deputy Mayor, you're first, and then Councillor Tabbert.
Thank you very much. Do we have any existing lots or any existing in the village of Cobden on septic at this point in time? Have we ever?
Well, there are certainly lots in Cobden. I think Wallace Street would be one area where there are existing residential units on septic systems, and Bonnechere Street, up the road from the subject lands, they're also serviced by septic system, yes.
So that could be an option.
Most certainly. The reality, though, for the property owner is that the density of development will be impacted by a septic system. You can't build 30 homes on a septic system. But again, until we get a full sense of what the development proposal is, the past practices, the onus is on the developer to assess the servicing available. In this case, there's no wastewater service, no sewage service, so they'd have to find an alternative that's suitable for their proposed development.
Good, and Councillor Tabbert.
Most of my questions were answered, but I do have one. Now, you said something about the developer would have to pay to put this service in. But isn't this a street within Cobden that should have had a sewage line put in, since it is in Cobden? Or am it doesn't make sense to me that all of our streets within Cobden, except the one along the lake, wouldn't be on a septic system, considering that we don't want sewage going into the lake.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't speak to past decisions of the members of council and the direction or recommendations provided by staff, but certainly if this was a project, like if we were considering redoing the road, we would look at the costing to put in a sanitary line. The big thing that Manager of Public Works Claire Rubin noted is that there's a pump station. So in the design from 1995, there's not only a pipe in the ground, but there's a pump station. Pump stations are extremely expensive, extremely expensive depending on their size. So I mean, should there be a sewer line there? Certainly it would benefit the development potential on that road, but I mean, the development exists and there's no sewer there. So I don't really know. I mean, we could accommodate development through a septic system on these properties, even with the lake there. I mean, it could be treated to the extent that it will not or impact very little of the lake. So there's other alternatives that won't have a huge impact on the lake, i.e. a septic system.
Good. And a supplemental, yes?
Follow up on that. So there's a pumping station at the beach, right?
There's a pumping station for the beach building, which is basically 2 washrooms and maybe a canteen. So the pump station is relatively small, and we've confirmed with Mr. McLaren that it is not suitably sized to support residential development.
But if we were to share in the cost and make it a bigger pumping station to help out a developer, wouldn't that be in our favor to have a bigger pumping station and help out?
Certainly, if council so wishes to do so to support development to install infrastructure, I would caution the members of council in the case that we're supporting one developer over the other, because I know that past practice or past decision at the council table with other developers was that the developer was on the onus to pay the full cost of infrastructure. So I would, certainly we can come back with a report with different ideas, but I would like to get a full sense of what development potential is available here. Like, I understand Mr. McLaren has presented multi-unit residential, 3 individual homes. We've received no reports from the proponent's engineer that they're considering this. So there needs to be, some information provided to us from, we need to understand the amount of sewage being produced by the type of use in order to analyze anything. We don't have that information. So it's very, very preliminary, I would say, at this stage.
So just to echo on staff's comment there, however we support one developer, we'd have to be open to doing that for all development. So you open the door for one. Now there are mechanisms where you can support development in specific ways. That's community improvement plan, and that's something we'll discuss again in the future, because septic may be an issue that we want to address across Whitewater region. Sewage, sorry. So I have a question from Mr. McLaren. He's very patient, letting us talk back and forth. Oh, I'll wait. Councillor Bell, you go first, please.
Yeah, sorry, Keith, what's your timeline? Like, I know you said that it's not necessarily set at this point, but you would sue, when were you hoping to go through with one of these plans or multiple of these plans?
Well, we'd probably, kind of the thing that we'd thought about is if something was to be done or whatever, we could probably wait, 3 to 5 years or whatever if something like a sewer was going to be put in. And then one question that I kind of have again with respect to the sewer is, like, if the street is going to be refurbished or whatever, is there a way of establishing, like, if the rock is an issue, or how big is it at that time? It maybe wouldn't be that complicated just to provide a trench in the rock for a graded, like a gravity flow sewer. And the other thing I think trying to clarify too is this isn't a new development that we're doing. Like, we're not doing a new land, new street and stuff like that. These are existing lots from the original village. Like, it's not new. We're just want to do something on the lots that have, excuse me, that have always been existing on the street. They just, nobody has done anything on them, that's all. So they're going to be new buildings for sure, and whatever the project is, but it's, I don't feel like it's a new development. But
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff, am I correct in thinking that if the township decided to spend money on any sewer upgrades or new installation, the cost of that would be borne by the residents of Cobden that are on the system? Correct. So we have to keep that in mind too, because that'd be significant cost to their already high sewer rates. So I'm correct in that? Okay, thank you.
Good. And sorry, Councillor Bell, I didn't miss you. Did you have a supplemental? No? Okay. So good. One question from me, Mr. McLaren, was just, have you had a chance to sit down with the planner to talk about potential development options?
We haven't decided on specific development options because, as I said, we've had some other inquiries about the property. So it could be, depending on what the outcome is, it could be like a small like highway commercial type property there, or it could be like 3 individual homes on the 3 lots, or like a 5 or 6 unit like apartment type residence on the property too, which would be nice, like down there on the lake and a view of the lake or whatever. So it depends on excuse me, which, whether it's us that develop it or we do something with the inquiries that we've had from others that are interested in the property.
So, and just to help quantify and look at it, I would encourage a preliminary discussion with our planner just to get into some of those options. But from our perspective, I don't think we have any intention of working on that street in short order. Is that correct? Bonnechere is not on the work plan?
No, it's not.
So it's not like it's going to be opened up this summer and you have to make a decision right now. Okay, so that's a positive. The second thing is that we have to be cognizant, as you heard some of the debate and the staff coming on, is that the development to support those houses would have to be borne by the developer. So it'd be negotiating or trying to figure out which cost is most economical compared to what development potential exists there. We want to support that development. We just would have to work with you to figure out what options you have and go from there. Is that fair to say? Good. Is there any other questions from council? So there's 2 leads here, Mr. McLaren, that you might hear back from. Our Public Works lead is Councillor Moore. But I think our development lead is Councillor Trim. So if you had some questions, please feel free to reach out to either one of them, and they can help point you in the direction. But my thought is next step is to meet with Alex and see what your options might be.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is 6.3, zoning bylaw amendment. The recommendation before us is the Council of Township Whitewater Region. No. I have to stop. This is a public meeting. Do we have the public meeting format? Right. So the next item on the agenda is 6.3. It's a zoning bylaw amendment. It'll be broken up into two parts. First, we're going to insert the public meeting portion, and then we will review item 6.3, and it's the recommendation to council. Good? Clear for everybody? So we'll now call to order this public meeting at 5:27 p.m. for zoning bylaw amendment 214 Sinton Street. And would staff please provide an overview of the application?
Yeah, no problem. So the first thing I'll do is just read through the planner statement for the public that may become present. So if any person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Whitewater Region before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the tribunal unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. Under Section 3411 of the Planning Act, if council decides to refuse an application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on an application within 120 days of receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Under Section 3419 of the Planning Act, it states that not later than 20 days after giving notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submission at the public meeting or made written submission to council before the bylaw was passed, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Thanks. Want me to proceed with the file? Yeah, great. So the present application is with respect to zoning bylaw amendment, file number D14159. The application is filed by Jason O'Brien for the property located at 214 Sinton Street. The property in question is within the hamlet of Westmeath, near the Westmeath boat launch. So the property in question is 1.7 acres in size. It contains a single detached dwelling and a storage shed. Mr. O'Brien also owns the property to the north or northeast. A larger property, it's about 50 acres, or maybe not 50 acres, 25 acres in size, and he's growing currently grapevines on that property. So a winery, if you will. So Mr. O'Brien actually filed an application back in 2022. That application has since been amended. So he filed an application then in order to permit a micro winery as well as a wedding and event venue. However, concerns were raised by the County of Renfrew with respect to the floodplain and information with respect to water and wastewater, so the hydrogeological piece. So we've worked with Jason over the last year to get a better sense of scoping the said use, like reducing the scope of the use in order to allow it without the hydrogeological piece. He has hired a surveyor, and he has confirmed that the driveway is above the regulatory flood elevation, so that confirms that there's safe access to the property. So what he's presented to us in a revised application is that we would permit the use of a limited farm winery, and what that would be is that he'd be permitted to use processed locally grown fruit. The production, the bottling, the aging, and the storage of wine and related products, and the fruit used for production would be predominantly from a vineyard or fruit farm located on the same or as part of the farmer's own farm operation. So that connects his house where the production's happening and his existing vines, the grapevines on the adjacent lands. So this would also include the retail sale of wine from the home, but does not allow for wine consumption. So all the wine that's produced on the premises is for off-site consumption. So that's the scoping of the use. So essentially, we've circulated that back to the county, and they are agreeable to that scoped use. So essentially, staff are supportive of the proposed amendment. It will not alter the existing rural and waterfront character of the property. So he's confirmed with the surveyor that he's above that flood elevation. And we've conferred with our building department, and for the said scoped use again, the existing well and septic could support the use. So staff are supportive of this application, and we're looking for, glad to answer any questions from the members of council. Thanks so much.
Thank you, CAO. Just to note for our minutes, Councillor Olmstead is now present. So, excellent. Next, before I open up to council, I just wanted to confirm the applicant, Mr. O'Brien, or his representative, are they here or online to speak on behalf of their application?
I'm not seeing him present, and I'm getting an indication that he's not online either. Thanks.
Good. And just for the sake of there is no members of the public present to ask to make comment on this application. And I'll just confirm there's no one online wishing to make comment. And there is no one online wishing to make comment. So next I will go back to council. Is there any questions that you might have for the CAO as part of this public meeting? Councillor Bell.
Just a little bit confused as to why this application needed to be submitted. Like he was, it appears that like he already had the vines, he's already been growing the fruit, already producing wine. What is the purpose of this application now? I understand before he was trying to do like a wedding event or an event venue. But that doesn't seem to be the case in this revised application. So just wondering what this application actually means for this property.
CAO.
Yeah, I would say that, so properties within our township are allowed to have home occupations, which is maybe what you're referring to. So if I have a small style business like a chiropractic office or a not a medical office, but a hair salon, you're permitted to have that as a home occupation, but that doesn't allow you to have retail sales. So the retail sale piece is the item here that is outside of the norm for home occupation. So that is the piece that's required him to file an application for zoning amendment.
No supplemental? Good. Any other questions from members of council? Councillor Moore.
Just one, now that you had that conversation, does this mean the Liquor Control Board will be involved as well? And does that require something on our part?
He has applied for the necessary licensing with the appropriate bodies, the government bodies. Because there's no consumption of alcohol on site, we are not required to issue a liquor license, as I understand it, but he has engaged with the different provincial boards and associations, organizations to get his licensing, and he's been successful on all those grounds. This is the last step in his process.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Trim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to CAO. Just a little clarification. I may not have heard you right when you were going through. My understanding is the vineyard is adjacent to the place where he lives. It's not across, it's not on the other piece of property. Is that what you indicated?
Yeah, it's directly adjacent to the northeast. So where the mouse is now on your screen, that is the property in question. Yeah, directly adjacent.
Okay,
yes.
I misheard.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Tabbert.
So there's a winery already in operation there?
He's growing crops, wine crops on his field beside there, yes.
So if we approve this zoning, he can then have a winery?
He can then, he then would be able to have public access to sell his product from that property, yes. A retail,
So
it's
he's
a
not
retail site.
making it on the property, he's just selling it on the property?
No, he's making it and selling it on the property. He's growing it,
So
making
how-
it, and selling it
So
on the
he
property.
can establish a winery without having to get like a business license or anything? Like you said, it's home occupation. So he can build a winery and not have to, you can build a winery in there?
So CAO, can you?
I'm totally confused now.
I'll gladly provide some details, but I see Councillor Trim, who's likely familiar with the property, so perhaps we could confer to Councillor Trim through you, the Mayor.
Please, Councillor Trim.
Yes, thank you. I have been invited into Mr. O'Brien's wine cellar. And down there, he has barrels and bottles of wine, which he has been making over time, and which he now wishes to be able to sell. And so, yes, he is producing wine at his establishment.
If I could only just add is that nothing prevents a property owner who's allowed to have a farm to grow vines, right? Grow grapes, I guess is what it is. The processing of those grapes for personal consumption as wine is probably fine as well. The minute that it transcends into the sale of it to the general public, that's when he requires that zoning amendment to do the retail sale. Perhaps he can grow the grapes, produce it, and sell it to another, like maybe to the Liquor Control Board, perhaps, or whatever it is. But for the sale on the specific property, he requires a zoning amendment. That's the piece there.
Does that help?
No. So he's still operating a winery on his property now. He is making wine to sell.
I would say, probably, yeah. I would say, yeah. He's just like a farmer grows crops and extracts the grain and sells it. Yes.
Okay, so how big can this operation get before it's not legal? And I have a real concern that he's going to all of a sudden, boom, build a winery there. Or am I just getting really out of the loop here?
No. There's constraints to the application. The CEO can outline that.
Yeah. So essentially, the definition that's presented in the report is to ensure that the scope stays pretty small. In this case, I mean, a passerby could stop in, buy a bottle of wine and leave, or buy a dozen bottles of wine, I guess, if they wish to do that. But people couldn't congregate there and drink wine and go visit. There's no tours allowed. It's not a full-on winery like you'd see in the Niagara area. Certainly, I'm sure Mr. O'Brien would wish to have that probably sometime in the future if he's successful. But in the current scoped definition, he would not be allowed to have that fulsomeness of the tour and all that.
I'm still confused here, though. He is making wine there, and there's no stipulation as to how big a winery he can have to produce the wine.
Well, the production of the alcohol is not governed by the township. It's probably governed by the province. So I would think that you could only produce so much grapes on a property, so that would probably govern the quantity of wine they could produce. But yeah, I hope that provides some details.
Not really, but that's okay. Produce wine.
Good. So what we can do is I'd encourage you to talk afterwards with staff just to get a better appreciation for. It's not so much a winery, but it's that home business. When does it become a retail operation and trigger the zoning requirement? So I think you can take that offline and just talk to staff about it. But within the parameters as it's applied to today, it's all within the Planning Act and meets all the regulations that govern our decisions. So we're authorized to vote on this as it is. Good? Yes, Councillor Olmstead.
Yeah, I've been to some of these limited farm wineries in the Sandbanks region, and they are fantastic for tourism and recreation. This isn't a big commercial factory, and these are very small little pop-ups, very much smaller scale than a brewery or anything like that. And they do bicycle tours and all kinds of stuff. So I think this would really add to our ecotourism theme of Whitewater region. And it says through the application, it's a limited farm winery, no new land, buildings, etc. But from what I've seen in the history of the Sandbanks region, I know the type of operations that they're doing. Very, very small scale. I'd fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olmstead. Is there any other questions from members of council? Good. Just confirm again, there is no applicant present or rep to speak on their behalf, so there's no closing by the applicant. This would then end our public meeting, right, clerk? So the public meeting is complete at 5:41 p.m. And we'll move back into our regular council meeting, item 6.3, which is a zoning bylaw amendment. And the recommendation before us is that the council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve an amendment to the zoning category of the property known municipally as 214 Sinton Street and described as Part Lot 23, Westmeath Concession 6 EML, from waterfront vicinity zone to waterfront vicinity exception 55 zone. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Is there any additional comments or questions by members of council? None seen. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Good. Next is the mayor's address. So I have some thoughts to share, as I always do. Good, and I apologize, I wrote them out, so you're going to see me squinting here. Just got a few things to cover today, 4 major topics, then I'll just jump straight into it. So first off, I need to acknowledge the flooding and the impact it has had on a number of our residents this past spring, whether it was due to damage directly from water into their home or their property, the threat of water entering their home or their property, or even in some cases just the trauma of reliving what has happened 3 times in the last 6 years to some of our residents. Our thoughts are with those who are impacted. We know that the road to recovery is not going to be fast and will be unique to each one of the residents that have been impacted. The township is going to continue to support you and work to connect you with potential resources and information to support you. Please reach out to us. I also need to recognize staff, the staff effort. Even before we declared an emergency, our staff was working to track the situation, and once it was declared, it became their sole focus. Thank you for all your work and your focus, from those in the office who manned the phones and took numerous requests and information from members of the public, to our volunteer firefighters who filled sandbags, managers, and even our CEMC. Thank you to our community, the volunteers, and even not-for-profit groups like the Mennonite Disaster Services who assisted individuals on their properties. Next steps for us will be to continue to advocate with the province for the activation of the Disaster Recovery Assistance for Ontarians program, and as soon as we know more information about whether or not that program will be implemented, that will be shared with residents and members of council. Next, second point is I need to recognize a few dates and events that we overlooked during the spring flooding, as our attention was focused all on the water levels. There was a number of things that occurred. On April 26th, it was recognized as the Administrative Specialist Day. We have a number of members of our staff who provide administrative support in some way, shape, or form, and we did not take the time to recognize them on April 26th. The National Day of Mourning was April 28th. At this moment, staff were on the ball. They lowered the flags at all of our locations to half-mast and recognized those who had been died or severely injured at work, but we as a council did not recognize that. Firefighters Appreciation Day occurred on May 4th. Councillor Bell didn't even give me a call before to let me know. Instead of recognizing our firefighters, we put them to work filling sandbags. But that occurred on May 4th. And the last event was a memorial tree unveiling that we did for retired Reeve and Warden of Renfrew County, David Stewart. That occurred on May 12th. So it's important for us to recognize our people. Folks do so much for us to protect us, for those that have lost their lives or were severely injured at a work site, for those that have served their community, shaping it to be what it is today. It's important for us to reflect on what our people do for us, and I just wanted to take that time today to recognize these 4 groups of people. We will next year, if there's no flooding, we will make sure that we recognize them on the proper dates.
I wasn't clapping for myself. It was everybody else. It is worth a clap.
It is worth a clap. Thank you. Good. Next item is some highlights from the last county council meeting. So the full report is enclosed in your minutes or your package. I'll let you go through it at your own leisure, but I just wanted to highlight a couple. The first one is the Warden Golf Tournament will occur on September 21st, and I'd just like to encourage, if there is an opportunity for a Whitewater team of some kind, shape, or form, it'd be great for us to be represented at the Warden's Golf Tournament. Second point is just licensed home childcare. So, a big issue during the election. A lot of members of our public are looking for licensed home childcare. And you'll notice in those, in that report that we did approve at the County Council the addition of another licensed home childcare center. So a licensed home childcare center is someone who's providing home childcare out of their home. They're licensed, which would then also allow them to be offering it at the $11 a day price point. So it's clear, the process has been made very clear to me how you can achieve this and how to establish home daycares. So I've asked our CAO to invite the county staff to come to council and share some information with us so that we can also pass that on to the community and encourage that to occur here locally as well. So you'll learn more about that in more detail. We hosted the Community Economic Development 101 program on the 3rd of May, and I know Councillor Trim attended. Was there other members of council that? Councillor Tabbert attended, had the opportunity to go with, host that at the Legion? And Councillor Moore? Councillor Moore. Yes. Excellent. So an excellent event. The next one that you might see mentioned in there is the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association. It had its AGM and nominated its board members. We have 2 members from Whitewater Region that are board members on the OVTA, Mr. Joe Kowalski from Wilderness Tours and Miss Lauren Kilpatrick from Heliconia. So 2 members of Whitewater Region are on the OVTA, making sure that our interests of our businesses are represented. So that was great news. You'll also see the formal notice about RCVTAC. It was approved for a 3-year term by the provincial government, which is another excellent resource for all the members of our community who do not have primary care doctors. And the last item, and you may see some of this come up later, is county is considering a fire dispatch system, a renewal of the fire dispatch system. I know there was discussion today about it. It's going to come, I think it's going to have to come back to council in a future time for a resolution of support, but the intent is to replace that dispatch system. It's over 25 years old and can no longer be repaired. So it's time to change it, and they're just looking for all of the municipalities that use that system to agree to the cost. So that will come back to council. I'm sure the chief will give us some information on that. Good. And my last topic is just sharing some incredible news, some good news for a change. High-speed internet. So I don't know if you've been following the news. It came up in the middle of the flood, and I didn't see a whole bunch of reaction. But high-speed internet is coming to Whitewater Region, and it's going specifically out to residences. And it will service those areas in our community that currently have very limited or no access. The province of Ontario has provided a map, which we'll turn to. Can we do that now? Yeah, if you can pull it up while I'm just finished speaking here. And I'll show you the areas that they've approved. Cogeco has been awarded the contract to do it and will be providing services directly to homes, to over 6,000 homes between Arnprior, Deep River, Headclare, Mariah, Laurentian Hills, Laurentian Valley, Petawawa, and Whitewater Region. and it's a fiber to the home solution. The design is going to be currently underway, so they'll be working with public works staff, trying to figure out all of the requirements in order to lay that fiber. And the plan is that it will be complete by December 2025, with most residences up and running by the end of 2024. So the full details, including the specific communities and addresses, will come with the scope of work once it's designed, and we'll roll that out eventually. But we'll go to the map. So the purple lines that you see there, they're coming up on your screen, all indicate where fiber will be run. And if your home is on one of those purple roads, that fiber will be run to your house like a telephone line. So as you can imagine, some of those areas receive zero or very, very limited access to internet right now. And again, the specific addresses, the dates that will be implemented, that'll all follow from Cogeco once they've done their scope of work. So I just wanted to close with that incredible news. And we will, the investment that the province and the federal government is making in a high-speed internet to our community is significant. This, combined with the cell towers, which are also due to be all established by 2025, will make a very connected Whitewater region. So I'm looking forward to 2 years from now when high-speed internet and cell phone will no longer be a significant obstacle. Excellent. That ends my address. So there'll be an opportunity for you to get into more questions on the high-speed internet when we get to that portion of the agenda. That's good. Excellent. So we'll get into the reports. 4 reports tonight. First one, site plan control approval. The recommendation is that the Council of Township Whitewater Region enact a bylaw to enter into a site plan agreement with the owner applicant to govern the construction of telecommunications tower at the property described as part of Lot 20, Ross Concession 8, Kerr Line. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Tabbert. And staff lead. Ivan?
Yep.
CAO, please.
Yep. Thanks so much. So this is a report pertaining to the submission of a new cell phone tower from Rogers Communication Incorporate, submitted on behalf of Philip Leslie, the current owner of the property. Property in question is at the corner of Magnesium Road and Kerr Line. So this is one of the many towers, I'd say 4 or 5 towers that Rogers has lined up for our community to be constructed between now, I think it's December 2025. So this latest tower is of similar size to the other ones. One's over on Nangor Trail, the other one on Westmeath Road, one on La Passe Road, one on Zion Line. So there's a few other ones that were already approved by council, the previous council, through the same process, site plan control approval. So this specific tower is 90 meters in height, same height as the other towers, and covers an area of about 4,000 square meters. And that includes not only the tower, but the gee lines that connect the tower to hold it up. So the property in question on which the proposed tower is to be located is within the agricultural zone or agricultural designation. However, it's sited as close as possible to the property lines to limit the impact on the agricultural cultivation of the land. So staff are supportive of the proposed location. We've reviewed the site development plan and are acceptable to the proposed construction. The one thing to note here, I guess, is the engagement piece. So what governs the consultation for these towers is the Industry Canada Protocol. It's Protocol CPC 2-0-03. So Rogers is required to consult with the adjacent landowners, those that are located within 3 times the height of the tower. So they send out a package to all those residents within 3 times the height of the tower, and they return to us what's called a summary of consultation, which they have submitted to us on May 1st. They did confirm that they did get contacted by 2 adjacent residents, one of which was just seeking to understand the nature of the service of the tower, so what would this service provide. The other one speaking about obstructions to views. However, Rogers, in communication with Julie Olmstead, confirmed that the location of the tower will not obstruct their views, and they satisfied their comments or concerns. So staff are supportive of this. The next steps would be to enter into an agreement, site plan agreement with the owner, with Rogers, so 3-party agreement in the township. Once that's signed, then it'll be on to the Rogers to construct the tower when it's available. So staff are supportive and certainly looking to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks so much.
Thanks, CAO. Any questions or comments? I think Councillor Trim, you moved. And seconded by Councillor Tabbert. Any comments or questions?
I was at that intersection today. Where, on which property is it going on? I don't know the lot numbers or anything out there.
So this is a property that was formerly held or owned by the Olmsteads. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they own the house on this farm lot, which is fronting on Magnesium Road. So they've severed off their home and their farm, the farm buildings or outbuildings, and they've sold the agricultural lands to Mr. Leslie. So this is now held by Mr. Leslie. It's at the corner of Magnesium and Curline.
Any other questions from members of council? None seen. Again, bringing cell phone, much demanded cell phone service to Whitewater region. And again, I stress 2025 is when all these towers are supposed to be in place. Hopefully we'll have a better idea when that may roll out specific to Whitewater region. But as I mentioned before, I think there's 290 towers going into Eastern Ontario. We're somewhere in the mix of the 290, but they've confirmed they'll all be done by 2025, which I'll just keep saying until they give me a new date. Good. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Next item, 8.2, tender for an arena compressor. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the award of tender 2023-03 to AC Mechanical Refrigeration Limited for the removal, replacement, and installation of a MyCom N6WA 6-cylinder ammonia compressor at the Cobden Arena at the cost of $35,450, excluding HST. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Trim, seconded by Councillor Bell. And our Superintendent of Recreation. Over to you.
So this tender was sent out for the compressor at the Cobden Arena. It's the original compressor there. It's 42 years of age. The maintenance plan on that was it was overhauled every 4 years. And what happens is overhauled that many times, the bolt holes, everything gets loose, and the life cycle is over on that unit. The financial implications, the 2023 capital budget included $32,000 for the removal of the replacement and installation of the new compressor. The recommended compressor tender price above is allotted budgetary amount of $35,450. A note is that the bid was over by a cost of $4,073.92. The total cost to the municipality will be $36,073.92. The reason for the increase is that we got caught in a price increase with MyCom, who manufactures the compressors, and the oil separators and all them parts in that quote were raised substantially.
Perfect. Superintendent, can I just get you to repeat that final number? The 36,000.
So the total cost to the municipality will be $36,073.92. So there's an expense portion of HST of $623.92 in that. And so the total over budget cost is $4,073.92.
Excellent, thank you so much. So we're just going to amend that motion so it's clear the price change. So it will reflect $36,073.92, including HST. Councillor Trim, Councillor Bell, are you good with that friendly amendment? Excellent, okay, thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions, comments? And I'm just going to go to my mover and seconder first. Councillor Trim, Councillor Bell, comments or questions? No? Okay, Councillor Mort.
Just wondering on warranty and lifespan.
The AC Mechanical supplied the standard warranty for the MyCom equipment. It's a MyCom warranty. And the lifespan of these units, if you get them in the correct maintenance plan and you rebuild the bottom half every 4 years and it gets opened up and you check all the piston rings and all that and maintain, your lifespan is probably 35 years. And with this one, we hit 42, so it's...
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Bell.
The difference in the two quotes, so the one from AC Mechanical and Simco, there's a pretty substantial difference. Was there a difference in the units that they were looking to provide, or what was the reason for the $8,000 difference, plus or minus, on between the two bids?
We have used both of these refrigeration companies. Beachburg typically, Simcoe did most of the work in Beachburg. AC Mechanical does most of the work in Westmeath and Cobden. It's the same. Typically, one company has a little more money than the other. The AC Mechanical has been doing the bulk of the work in Cobden. There's the same scope of work.
And there hasn't been any, been happy with the service that AC Mechanical has been providing over the years they've been working with Westmeath and Cobden?
Yes, been happy with both companies' work over the years.
Good. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. As amended. Carried as amended. Yes, thank you, Clerk. Excellent. 8.3 is the Olmstead-Jeffrey Lake Road Rehab Debenture. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Township Whitewater Region approve a debenture bylaw for Olmstead-Jeffrey Lake Road Rehabilitation. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Olmstead, seconded by Councillor Moore. And Treasurer, you're going to speak to this one, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So whenever we do a debenture, there's two bylaws that are required to do it. One is to initiate the initial construction loan process, and the second is actually to approve the actual debenture to complete the financing. So in February 16th, 2022, Council passed the original bylaw for the construction loan, and so now we're just going to that actual end portion of finalizing the actual debenture. So the debenture proposed is for a period of 10 years with payments occurring semi-annually. The first payment will occur in 2023 on June 1st, and the last, in December 2023, and the last payment will be made on June 1st, 2033. With this debenture finalized, we'll have a total amount of $12,251,000 of debentures on the books. So the way that it works is it's going to be a 10-year term of 3.81%. So the total annual payments that will be made by the township is $302,987.42. One payment of the interest and principal was budgeted for this year. So it's covered in this year's 2023 budget. Looking to the annual repayment limit that the township has, per the FIR's calculation through the government, through the government's basis, it was $1.892 million. That's based on information from the 2021 FIR. Whenever I do an actual calculation using that same information, less the actual debt we've incurred already, we have a limit left of 1.28 million. With the coming of Cameron Street, we'll still have 1.145 million at the end of 2023. Any questions?
Good. I'm going to go to my mover and seconder first. Councilor Olmstead.
Yeah, thank you. Just before you coming on with the old treasurer leaving, there was a schedule of debentures, and I think some of them are coming off in 2023. My memory isn't that great, but we can take this offline as well. I'd like to have a look at by timeline some of the stuff that's coming off, and I assume that's why it's going from 1.2 down to 1.145. Is there's some of them coming off, right? Yeah. Okay.
So just as a note, in the end of 2024, there will be one of our debentures will be ending in 2024.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a fairly significant one too, is it not?
Not real big,
No.
that one. It's a couple years down the road that the more.
I had my
significant
fingers
ones.
crossed, that was a big one. Yeah, maybe I'll take offline at some point, and I'd like to go through that schedule.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
And Councilor Moore. You're my seconder, so
Oh, yeah.
got nothing.
No, I have nothing. I do recall what Councillor Olmstead is talking about, and this was all discussed by the previous clerk treasurer, or treasurer, so I have nothing.
Perfect, thank you. Any other members of council? Any comments or questions on this debenture? Yes, Councillor Tabbert.
I was on Olmstead-Jeffrey Lake Road this weekend, I don't know what day, but anyways, that road is wonderful. And I hope the people appreciate it when they drive on it. And I just hope it lasts a long time. But it is a great road to zoom, not zoom, but to drive on. You can't go fast on it, but you know, it's nice hills and curves and no, it's really nice.
And it was an important road to do. I mean, it had a number of safety issues with rock faces and, yeah, I can't remember what the barriers along the edge of the road, what are those called, Lane? Guardrails kind of collapsing into the lake. So a lot of rock blasting, an expensive road, but like you said, I think it'll be available for the public for a number of years.
I have to admit the rock blasting really adds to the decor of the road. I don't know, I really like the road. I've never been on it like since it's been fixed, and I was totally amazed at how well it was done.
So noted, decor is now on our list. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Olmstead?
Yes, actually, I do have one for Lane. Did we get the full second lift of asphalt? And I think that there was 2 slated for that road, right? A double surface?
Yeah, so double surface, yeah, so it's split in two sections. It was completed last summer.
So we got the second one on?
Yeah, it was in two stages, so the
Right.
middle part was finished.
Right, okay, thank you.
If there's no other questions, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item, 8.4, ice operations. So the recommendation is that the Council of the Township Whitewater Region receive this report for information purposes and direct staff to engage with Westmeath, Cobden, and Beachburg Rec Associations, Muskrat Minor Hockey Association, and the Beachburg Agricultural Society. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Trim. And CAO.
Yeah, thanks so much. So the present report was prepared for the members of council for information purposes, ideally for the intent so that we could prepare for the 2023-2024 ice operations. So while they don't start, we don't start producing ice until early September, there's a lot of lead up time and lead up work in order to establish allocations and line up the user groups in advance of that September 1st date. In addition to that, we have one capital budget item for a dehumidifier that ultimately, as part of the budget deliberations, we had discussed 2 locations, potentially Cobden and or Westmeath. And, you know, the outcome of a final decision with respect to our ice operations for next year or the upcoming year will help shape the location of that dehumidifier. So what we have before you now is a sort of a technical report, if you will, with some numbers and some details on utilization rates and costing to help the members of council, but also help the general public to get a full sense of our ice operations and our utilization rates. So this is stemming from our 2023 budget deliberation. So this current council is the one who deliberated on this year's budget, and that was in January, February of this year. At that time, back in January, we didn't have a full scope of how many ice rentals we had for the past season because it ended in March. But we had estimated the utilization rates for 1, 2, or 3 facilities. So the first thing noted in the background is some utilization rates. Now we've defined those a bit better in the report as a result of understanding the real demand from last year versus the available ice. So this is also a report that comes after the November decision of this council to postpone the opening of the Beachburg Arena. So back in June last year, as a result of the plant room damages or the repairs needed, council had delayed the opening of the Beachburg Arena, and then in November we had postponed the opening until the upcoming season of 2023-2024. So just a brief history, we recognize that these 3 facilities have existed for a long time. We recognize that they've served our community well. There's been a lot of contributions from our residents to the realization, and just making a note that the decisions before council in the near future, you know, these facilities are long-standing, and a lot of people have contributed to their success. So back in 2017, the township took over the operations of the facilities. Just as a note, we operated pretty steadily until 2020, and then the pandemic came, and we've had some fluctuating operations between one arena and the other since 2020. So back in 2021, 2022, we operated Beachburg and Cobden, and I think we ended up operating Westmeath only for a short period of time. So in the analysis section of this report, we speak about, I think it's 5 different things or 6 different things. So the first one is the availability and demand. So attached to this report, attachment 1, there's a full table that you can go view and review. But essentially, the availability at the Cobden Arena last year was a total of, as it pertains to primetime hours. So I guess before I get into the numbers here, so availability is divided between primetime and daytime use. So generally speaking, daytime use, we could accommodate daytime use, and we could accommodate an influx in daytime use. We're not fully booked daytime. The real crux here is the prime time. So starting at, I think it's, what time is it from, Jerry?
4 to 10.
4 p.m. to 10 p.m. is the prime time hours for an arena. And it's Monday to Friday, and over the weekend, I think all of the weekend is prime time.
Yes, 8 in the morning till 10 at night is prime time.
There you are. So these numbers, they're generally reflective of prime time, because that's where there's the hourglass gets pinched, right? So in the Cobden Arena, we had 1,624 available hours of prime time, of which 1,143 hours were utilized in last year's season, representing a utilization rate of 70%. And in Westmeath, 1,450 hours available of prime time, of which 626 hours were utilized, representing a utilization rate of 43%. So these numbers are as of September all the way to March 26, which is when we pulled out the ice. So moving forward to the anticipated utilization rate. So all encompassing, last year we sold 2,174 hours of ice. That's daytime and prime ice rentals. 2,174 hours. Of that is 1,769 hours were for utilized for prime time. So 1,769 hours utilized for prime time. So moving into this upcoming season, we're not expecting a huge change in those prime time hours. In fact, there could be a potential reduction as a result of the Mattaway expansion. And I think we discussed this, quite informally as part of the budget process, that there could be some impacts on utilization. So in my report, I speak to Table 2. It speaks to potential utilization rates for each facility based on last year's prime time. But the summary of that is this. Based on the 1,769 hours of prime time from this past season, and the full available prime time hours we could provide. So with one facility, let's go with 3 facilities, we could provide 4,200 hours of prime time ice. With 2 facilities, we could provide 3,100 hours of prime time ice. And with 1 facility, we could provide 1,624 hours of prime time ice. So on average, each facility could provide about 1,624 hours of prime time ice. So if we extrapolate that to usage, the demand from last year, with 1 facility, we'd be operating at 109%. With 2 facilities, we'd be operating at 56%, and with 1 facility, it'd be at 39%. So those numbers are pretty close to what we presented as part of the budget. They vary a bit, only as a result of the full season ending, the full of last ice season ending. So just to get a sense of who's using the ice, so we've highlighted the top sort of 7 users, and that's with both facilities, either one or both facilities. And the percentage is based on the available prime time, those 1,769 hours. So if you look at your table, or the attachment, Table 3 shows you the full list of all the users and how much ice they've used and their percentage against that arena. But in our case, Muskrat Minor Hockey has used 39% of the prime time ice. Upper Ottawa Valley Aces, 11% of the prime time. Thunder Girls Hockey, 10%. Whitewater Kings, 8%, and the list goes on here. So in this report, we've presented staffing resources needed for 1 or 2 facilities. So we've highlighted 1 or 2 facilities, and that's just based on what we operated last year. If we were to move into 3, then certainly the staff complement would increase. And again, in conversations with Jerry today, it's pretty clear that recruiting operators is a difficult thing. I mean, there's not operators all over the Renfrew County, just like any other position that we're trying to recruit for. So whether we move to 2 or 3 operations, the recruitment piece will be a constraint, without a doubt. So moving into the financial resources, the operating financial resources. So as part of the budget deliberation, we did allocate for 3 operating facilities. That was the direction from council. So our municipal levy will include has included the operating cost of 3 facilities. So that's budgeted at just over $600,000. And based on the revenue we generated from this past season, we estimate that we will generate about $268,000 of revenue, $269,000. So we've budgeted, and council would be aware of this as part of the deliberations, we've budgeted for a deficit, without a doubt. So moving into capital expenditures. So back in November, when Jerry and I presented a report on the Beachburg Arena and what were the future capital expenditures, we had estimated $2.5 million. That might have been true then and is pretty high estimates, but certainly these estimates don't go down, they're only going up, right? So the big cost is the replacement of the ice slabs and the boards, which come together at the tune of about $1.2 million, but in conversation with Jerry, our Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, that 1.2 is probably an underestimation, and it's probably close to 1.5 to $2 million. But the ice slab usually lasts about 50 years, is kind of the life cycle on an ice slab. These facilities were put in the 1970s, 1980s, so they're all coming to the slab itself is coming to the end of its life cycle. Now we could try to push and push and push, but at some point they'll have to be replaced, or we'll have to look at different options. So I'm just looking at that capital expenditure, we're looking at $3.6 million over the next 5 or more years. So we need to start saving now. Now is the time if we're going to continue ice operations in our community. Since 2009, I didn't have the data going back to 2017 when the municipality took over the arenas, the operations, but the township has invested about $350,000 since 2009 in our municipal ice operations. That's not accounting for the associations who've contributed to some other expenses and some other capital projects. So myself and the mayor and Councillor Bell, we've communicated, and as well as the deputy mayor. So the next steps here would be to engage with our recreation associations on the information contained in this report. We'd also extend that communication with the Beachburg Agricultural Society, who own the lands on which the Beachburg Arena is held. So they own the lands under the Beachburg Arena, as well as the Muskrat Minor Hockey. So we'd like to engage with these 5 groups and then return to council in late June. June 21st is our regular meeting of council in June, in order to obtain direction from the members of council as it pertains to ice operations moving forward into the 2023-2024 season. So the direction we'll be seeking is whether or not we proceed with 1 ice facility, 2 or 3. We may present options to the members of council, delayed starts or something like that, but certainly we need some direction as staff, as the CAO, to ensure that we're operational come September with our ice facilities. So next steps: engage with the community groups, and then come back with a report to council. I'm open. We're here for the next month, so the June 21st is over a month away. So any member of council, you're welcome to consult with me on the findings of this report or anything at all on this matter. So my door's open for any conversation on this. Thanks.
Thank you, CAO, and I truly appreciate the amount of effort that went into putting all of that data in one spot, providing not just members of council but the public a wholesome overview of some of the factors that we need to consider for the June 21st. And I think we acknowledge as a whole that June 21st is a decision point in order to make sure we have staffing to implement whatever decision we want to go with. So I think that's clearly understood. Excellent. What I will do now is I'll open it up to any questions or comments, and I'm going to go to our mover first, Councillor Bell.
Just a quick question about the hours. Prime time on the weekends is 8 until 10, that's correct? Is there an option moving forward, just depending on what happens, to add an extra hour in on the weekends, 7 to start an hour earlier on Saturdays and Sundays to get that extra hour of, quote unquote, prime time on the weekends? Is that something that is feasible?
I would redirect that to my superintendent.
Yeah, we could open earlier. In the past, we've opened up at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's just not considered prime time.
Anything else, Councillor Bell?
No, it's a good report. Spoke to Ivan about it a little bit earlier, but includes, I think, everything that is required to kind of make a decision moving forward. It's not going to be an easy decision by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of time and effort has gone into trying to give us all the information that is required and necessary to kind of put our best foot forward to make the proper decision. So appreciate the time and effort on that. And hopefully that the public consultation with the rec associations as well as the user groups will provide a little bit of context surrounding our decision moving forward as well.
I'll go to our seconder, Councillor Trim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I may steal an idea of yours, because it wasn't mentioned in this report, but could consultation be extended to the separate school board? Because unlike Beachburg and Cobden, the little school in Westmeath doesn't have a gym. And they may be interested in what's happening to that facility during the school year. So this was your idea, Mr. Mayor, and I remembered it, and I'm wondering if it's worthwhile pursuing. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can take that suggestion. That's just one more meeting for us, and it's worthwhile to get the input. I know that the separate school has usage. I think in the annex it listed 8 hours was its use last year, but I agree it's an important thing in order to keep our schools in our communities. So I think we'll make time for that. Thank you for that recommendation. Good. Any other, Councillor Moore?
Looking at this report, and of course I'm still referring to page 4 where it has monetary value. I'm wondering for the next meeting, meaning June 21st, could we have the anticipated deficit for the 2023-2024 fiscal year as regards to arenas? Because here it gives you the report of our deficit, proposed deficit for this year, but includes 3 arenas. If in fact we were to include 2 arenas next year, is there going to be a proposed deficit is my question. And maybe we could have that info for the 21st.
If you'll allow me, so I think the piece here, certainly it's something that I noted between the issuance of this report and what would be the options presented. But certainly if there's an option presented, whether it be 1 facility, 2 facilities, we'll present more detailed costing to operate that 1 facility and anticipated revenue. So we'll provide that level of detail. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Olmstead, please.
Yeah, I want to echo Councillor Bell's and the Mayor's comments regarding the amount of detail on this report. It's we certainly can't say we didn't have all the information. So a couple of, as you're reading numbers out, Ivan, I was feverishly computing and calculating, and then I scrolled down and realized most of them are already down in the charts below. So total prime time hours available, 1,624, exactly what I come up with. So I assume that means Renfrew is bringing on an extra 1,624 prime time hours of usage into our area if we use the same numbers, of which I have to believe that some of that's going to come out of our region, which scares the heck out of me. And if they only take a portion of that out of Whitewater region, if a quarter of that comes out of Whitewater region, that's 400 hours coming out of our usage, which again scares me. So a couple of questions. I'm familiar with the Ottawa Valley ACES program, Jerry, and their region where they draw from. I'm not with the Thunder Girls. Is that an Upper Ottawa Valley district as well?
So the UOV girls would be from Deep River to Arnprior, but Whitewater does have a house league program through that Thunder program, so there is girls house league that represent Whitewater.
So included in, I come up with 188 hours of Thunder Girls, so some of that's a house program as well.
True. Yep.
And the Upper Ottawa Valley Ringette, is that the same district, I guess?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just quickly, rough math, they have 500 hours of usage between those 3 groups, sorry. Yeah, we certainly have some thinking to do. Is the additional 1,624 hours of prime time usage coming into our region is going to have an impact for sure. Is there any way to get information about, obviously, Mattaway has done some preliminary math, and I'm sure they've already have bookings from a lot of groups. Is there any way to get a hold of some of that information?
I mean, certainly
legally.
Well, and I mean, certainly we hold our fellow neighboring communities. We could certainly connect with them. I know that Mayor Nicholson and I, when we met with the mayor and the CAO there, this was one of the items of discussion, like what was their anticipated commencement date and the like. But I would have no harm in reaching out to them to get a sense of whether or not these organizations that are throughout the whole of Renfrew County to get a sense of whether or not they've committed to time at Mattaway. There'd be no issue in reaching out to them for that.
Right. And just one last thought, Renfrew has made a significant investment, a significant overinvestment into that facility. So I have to think that they're going to want any user that they can find. So I'll leave that. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments, Councillor Olmsted. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Okay, seeing none, we will call for a vote. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you, staff. Good work. Good. I'd like to propose that we take a short 5-minute recess. So we will, at 6:31 now, back seated for 6:36, please. Thank you. Excellent, welcome back. Our recess will recommence here at 6:37. Next item on the agenda is notices of motion, and I'll just go around the council chambers to see if there's any notices of motion. And none seen. Excellent. Number 10 on our agenda is correspondence. There's one item requiring direction and a number of informational items. We're going to attack the first one. So the OHIP maintain chronic pain treatment from the National Chronic Pain Society, and a recommendation before us that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region send a request to the Government of Ontario to maintain OHIP coverage for chronic pain treatments and continue to provide much needed care for the people of Ontario. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Olmstead, Councillor Trim. Thank you. And I'll just, this is an item that came to me. Sorry, I'm just making a note. As a letter to the mayor. So I added it to correspondence. Subsequent to the clerk putting it on the agenda, I was able to obtain some additional information that I have not been able to provide to the members of council for your consideration. So what I'd like to propose is that we table this item for future discussion once you've had a chance to take a look at the information that I can share with you. So I'm hoping for a motion from the floor to table this agenda item. Deputy Mayor, can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Moore. So the motion before us is to table this item, allow council to review additional information, and then it can be brought up later at a future date if necessary. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Information items. There's a number here, and I'm just going to go through. The first one is scheduled closures from the Ottawa Power Generation. Can't remember if I was going to speak to that or you were going to speak to that.
Well, I could just speak. Essentially, it's a notice that was provided to the township with respect to the Cheneau Dam, their continued equipment upgrades. So they're making fixes to the bridge. And there is a schedule of upcoming closures available on the opg.com/eastern, which gives the dates on when they're going to be closing the bridge. So the various dates, they're closed from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. So the residents of the area that utilize this, they would be cognizant of this from last year. So this is continuing into this year, this summer. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next item is a locate charge. Oh, sorry, yes, Councillor Bell.
Is there a way that we could get that updated just on our website as well, just included on our website? No, especially in the summer, we have lots of residents traveling across that bridge, so just as an extra piece of awareness.
We'll verify the schedules per that link, and we'll see if we could post some on our Facebook page, and website.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? None seen. Next one is a locate charge from a letter that we received from Enbridge, specific to the locate charge. CAO.
Yeah, so this correspondence is from Enbridge, Enbridge Gas. Essentially, there's been talk about them charging a locate charge, and they brought this report to the members of council in order to provide some clarifications. They're still proposing to have a locate charge to those who are third-party or for-profit requesters. However, they're indicating here that that private property owners and existing natural gas customers will remain at no charge. Now, they've made the proposal as a result of bills that are being passed by the provincial government and the additional costs related to those bills. At this point in time, it's on pause. They're engaging with stakeholders and industry partners. So if they do choose to or get approval to have a charge with respect to locates, so that's the locates before you dig, then they'll certainly correspond with us as well. So we'll circulate that correspondence if it comes to us. Thanks.
CMO compliance results from Emergency Management Ontario. Clerk, you're the CEMC.
So I think I brought this forward in a couple meetings ago regarding our compliance. The Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act require us to require us to maintain certain requirements regarding our municipal management program. And there's certain criteria that we have to meet compliance in. I updated all the information onto the website. It goes to the Deputy Solicitor General. They review it, and we received compliance. So this is just our congratulations for compliance letter.
Councillor Tabbert?
Yes, after reading the letter, I'd like to congratulate Carmen on her and her team for what they've done. Reading the letter, it says that there were 5 municipalities who did not complete all 13 elements. So there's quite a bit of work to be done. And so thank you, Carmen, for your work and your team.
And it was reflected in our response during the flood. So our ability to respond and the SOPs and policies that were in place were very effective. And I'm very confident in the event of another emergency that we'll be able to respond seamlessly. So thank you. Good. Next item is the interactive high-speed internet map. There's a package on there. I won't review it. I spoke about it in the mayor's address, but if there is any questions or comments from members of council, we'll take those now. Councillor Trim.
I noticed on the map, in addition to the red lines, there were some green ones. What do the green ones indicate?
Green means...
Oh, I didn't see, okay, didn't see that. Okay.
I mean, this is important enough for the community. I think it's worthwhile investing the time. So if we can, keep the schedule to the left there, and we're going to watch the clerks scroll across, see how well she knows her geography. Killaloe, Bonnechere. Keep on going. There you go. No, just blow up the whole thing and just move it over to the left. Yeah. No, make it smaller. Yeah, make her smaller. Other way. Yeah. Slide her over. Keep going. Perfect. Right there. Right there. That's good. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Okay. So you can see green is where it exists already. And the purple is where it has been funded to occur.
Okay.
And you might say, well, what about all the other spaces in between that? Those are already, the government has recognized those as already being serviced, whether that's a local provider through direct line of sight, i.e. Whitewater Internet, or ExploreNet as another option. So those were taken in, and Cogeco, so they've taken into consideration, where is it already? Good. We're now going to put in fiber in those other spots. So that's what the map looks like. So good question, Councillor Trim. Any other comments? Councillor Tabbert.
So this won't take business away from our current providers?
I can't answer that because NRTCO does offer a service currently to those providers through the telephone lines that exist already. But the resident will have the option of selecting one of the two providers based on what their personal needs are. Yes, Councillor Moore.
Is there a time frame on this? Is it like the cells before 2025, or do they have a different date?
2025 is when they're saying it should all be complete.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. Anything else from anyone else? Good. We'll move on to the next item. Community Connection newsletter. So Pembroke Regional Hospital provides a newsletter. They just shared it with us. I shared it with you so you'd have some context. I'm not sure if Renfrew Victoria Hospital has a similar newsletter. If it does and one of you are connected, please we'll add it into our information, and that way it's available to the public from both hospitals that support our residents. Excellent. Next we're going to go to announcements. And I'm going to start with the Deputy Mayor.
Excuse me, thank you very much, Mayor. We have been successful in our hiring of our deputy treasurer. I will just make a note that the hiring committee was made up of Amanda Nesbitt from the county, Treasurer McGonigal, CAO Burton, and myself. And we as council are pleased to announce that Julie Parr has accepted the position of deputy treasurer. Julie has 6+ years of experience in finances and associate fields, payroll, and human resources. Julie was hired by the township in January of 2021 and has served as a finance assistant and most recently as a finance clerk, payroll and human H&S. Julie had an outdoor adventure naturalist program diploma from Algonquin College and completed the AMCTO Municipal Accounting and Finance program and is currently enrolled in a payroll compliance practitioner course. So we appreciate and thank Julie for her continued commitment to Whitewater Region, and we wish her much success in her new position. Thank you. That's everything.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good. Now I'm going to go as per the seating. So, Councillor Bell, you're up next.
Not a whole lot to say other than the Whitewater Historical Society met last month. A few interesting projects going on there as it pertains to the summer. They're trying to figure out some dates for some activities to be held in Forster's Falls. I think one of them is the tour to Whitewater. They're going to have a stand there, and then they're looking at a few other dates to set up. So keep an eye on that. I think the spring chicken went on May 13th from Borca. So I think as per usual, that went pretty well as well. But other than that, nothing else.
Excellent. Councillor Tabbert.
Yes, I would like to congratulate 3 local residents who were honored by the Cobden Civitan Club Saturday evening. Doris Rainey of Foresters Falls is our Citizen of the Year. Miriam Hunt was named the Civitan of the Year, and Johnny Halferty was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award as he is one of 2 founding members of the club still alive. And the award was presented to him by John Maines, who is the other living member. So, and I was at the memorial tree unveiling, and it was very nice. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend the Beachburg Lions celebration, but I understand it went off very well.
Very good supper. No, and it was a very good event, and I think there is a great write-up. Marie Zettler did a tremendous write-up recognizing the Lions as well. Good. Councillor Olmstead.
I have absolutely nothing other than to wish everybody our first happy long May 2-4 weekend this weekend to kick off summer, which is the greatest time of year in the Ottawa Valley.
Excellent. Councillor Moore.
Just have one, and it goes into June. So June 1st is Ottawa River Power. It's our quarterly meeting. And then on the 13th is the AGM, Ottawa River Power. So I've got 2 meetings coming up there. And there is a meeting coming up in June 14th for the Beachburg Public School 100-year committee. So I'll be attending all 3.
Good. Can we just confirm that date again for the 100th? The actual celebration date?
Oh. It is September, you know what, I don't have it written in here. It's September 16th. I do have it written in here, September 16th, it's a Saturday.
Can we just confirm there's not a meeting scheduled for that at some point? Okay, I just asked the clerk to make sure that we don't have a meeting scheduled that there's going to create a conflict, so.
Yeah, and as far as I know now, as it stands now, it'll be a 1-day event.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And Councillor Trim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was able to attend the 70th anniversary of the Beachburg Lions Club, and I didn't know what to expect, but there were lions from all over the area, as far as Queon, Killaloe, Arnprior, Renfrew, and so that was nice to see in our community, and in addition to a lovely meal. that I'm sure everybody there appreciated. I must say that our mayor, Nicholson, also represented our township very well with his speech. So I thank him for that. Thank you.
It's easy to recognize someone, a group like the Lions Club, and we've got so many volunteer organizations in our community. We are very fortunate, so thank you. Good, that concludes announcements. Yeah. Next one is bylaws. So in front of us tonight, item 12.1, we have 3 bylaws listed. Four bylaws listed across 2 pages. So the recommendation is, be it resolved that the bylaws listed on the May 17th, 2023 agenda be taken as read and passed. A mover and a seconder, please. So moved by Councillor Tabbert, seconded by Councillor Olmstead. Any discussion, comments from members of council? None seen, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Clerk, is there a requirement for closed session tonight?
No.
None. So then I can declare it adjourned at 6:52 p.m. Thank you, guys.